Shalom, shalom, shalom. All praise, honor, glory, respect, and homage to Yahweh by Hashem HaMashiach Yahweh Shai. Yahweh being the name of the Heavenly Father, and Yahweh Shai being the name of his only begotten Son, who the world inly calls Jesus Christ. Welcome to another Wednesday wake-up call. Okay, this is a pre-recorded Wednesday wake-up call. But nevertheless, it's time to wake up. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, let's just start off with that. Let's go to Romans chapter 13 and verse 11. Because the time that we're living in, it's amazing. Okay. So this is the book of Romans chapter 13, verse 11. And that, knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep. For now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. Okay, so we're close to the end. Every day that goes by, we're getting closer and closer to Yahweh Shai returning, destroying this place, and bringing us to the second wilderness. And most high willing, we make it through the second wilderness. We're not rebelling in the second wilderness, and we make it into the kingdom of heaven. Some things are going to have to go on before that happens. But as you can see, we're progressing towards that. Verse 12, the night is far spent, the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. Let's keep these laws, statutes, commandments close to our hearts and our minds, okay? So we're going to start off with, we're in the Titanic. If you're living in Babylon, you're in the Titanic, but of course, the 12 tribes are scattered throughout the four corners. So, our brothers are being oppressed worldwide. Okay, so we're going to go to Sicily in this one, and we're going to talk about the British Bill Gates. All right. In fact, let's get Proverbs 11 and verse 4 to start it off with the current events that are going on worldwide. Okay, so Proverbs 11 verse 4, riches profited not in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivereth from death. So righteousness, following these laws, statutes, commandments, doing what the Most High requires us to do, what he commands us to do is, as the scriptures say, deliver from death. Because what? The wages of sin is death. You stay away from sin, stay away from death. All right. We get into, Most High willing, at the day of doom, immortality will reign supreme, paraphrasing. Okay. So let's begin with that. The British Bill Gates. Oh, Salakia. Fair Use Act. Fair Use Act. This video is protected by the Fair Use Act. This is a teaching moment, and this is a lesson. So this is protected by the Fair Use Act. Let's continue.
On Monday, a luxury yacht sank off the coast of Italy's Sicily, reportedly due to
Salakia.
weather. There were 22 people on board Italy's Sicily, reportedly due to freak weather. There were 22 people on board. 6 of them are missing, including a British tech tycoon and the international chairman of Morgan Stanley. As of now, rescue operations are still underway. Search is on for survivors, and the world is tracking all updates. All the media attention is on this tragedy. But the Italian coast is no stranger to disasters like this. Every year, dozens of migrant boats sink here. Hundreds of lives are lost. But these are poor asylum seekers, so no one really talks about them. Our next report tells you more.
This is Porticello, a small fishing village on the Sicilian coast. At around 5 a.m. local time, it was hit by a violent storm. There were flashes of lightning and water sprouts appeared. Boats waited for the storm to pass. Among them was British-flagged Bayesian. When the storm struck, the Bayesian's anchor was down. It caused the aluminium mast to break into half. The ship lost its balance and it sunk along with its passengers.
And this morning, we got this very strong orkan gust.
Yeah.
And we had to start the engine to keep the ship in an anchor position, and we watched the ship behind us, not to touch them.
Yeah.
And we managed to keep the ship in position, and after the storm was over, we noticed that the ship behind us was gone.
22 people were on board when the boat went down. This included 12 passengers and 10 crew members. 15 have since been rescued and one body was recovered. Reports say it was the ship's chef, but 6 others are still missing. One of them is Mike Lynch. He's known as the British Bill Gates. He founded software giant Autonomy in 1996. He sold it to HP in 2011. He was accused of a massive fraud, and in June he was cleared of it. So he organized this trip for his work colleagues. Also among the missing are Lynch's 18-year-old daughter, the International Bank chairman of Morgan Stanley, a Clifford Chance lawyer, and 2 others. Rescue operations are still underway. Police divers have identified the wreckage. It's around 164 feet below the surface. Teams are still searching for the missing, but they haven't had any luck. The diving unit says the operations will continue until they find everyone.
We are not stopping. We have resources, manpower, and means. Our goal is to find all the people who are missing. So that is our job.
Italian authorities have opened a probe into this. Meanwhile, the world is fixated on this tragedy. The media attention is continuous, and social media can't get enough. For many, it's a reminder of the Titan submersible incident last year. But the Italian coast is no stranger to accidents like this one. In June this year, a boat carrying more than 70 migrants was off the Italian coast. It capsized, 12 died, and 60 went missing at sea. Farther south, 10 other people were found dead. It was off the Italian island of Lampedusa. The central Mediterranean is a deadly migration route. Over 3,000 migrants died or disappeared just last year. But no one cares about those drownings. Why? Because these are migrants fleeing conflict or poverty. Poor people who are risking their lives and losing it in the process. Yet the media never focuses on those tragedies. While every life is valuable in theory, in reality, it seems some are more precious than others.
Okay, and that's something that's pretty obvious, you know, but at the same time, when you have it's in such close proximity, you know what I mean, of migrants coming in, fleeing war zones and poverty and, you know, almost certain death in their own country. And then you have somebody on their super yacht, you know what I mean? Not even a yacht, it was a super yacht. So he just got finished beating the case. So he, you know, gets his lawyer and, you know, 22, who knows, drug dealers and prostitutes probably, you know, how they get down, right? And the international, what is it? Slacky, I don't want to you know, give him the wrong title, but Morgan Stanley International Chief, whatever it was, right? Right along with him, you know what I'm saying? So tech giants and huge bank, the too big to fail bank executives just hanging out, you know what I mean? You know, it's just what the super rich do, right? So he's on a super yacht and he's super sank. But the hypocrisy is you know, it reeks it reeks of hypocrisy. But let's get this. Slovakia. Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 35. You know, looking at what's, you know, these guys are billionaires. They're grabbing up all the resources, you know, purposely making people, you know, you know, not able to thrive, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, especially these bank executives, you know what I'm saying? They know who they want to give loans to, they know who not to give loans to, you know, they know how to manipulate the system, right? Well, God got them. All right, Deuteronomy 32 and 35. To me belongeth vengeance and recompense. Their foot shall slip in due time, for the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things that shall come upon them make haste. So they're really not safe because they have God fixing to judge them. Now, we see the judgment of the Most High God. Now, let's see how these people have been acting, the things they've been doing, the crimes against humanity, the crimes against the Israelites. You know, fluoridated water, right, was put in urban areas to help, these quotation marks, this is what they say, to help with tooth decay. Like they really do care about your teeth. You know what I'm saying? As you can see, that has been a lie. If you look at this movie, I believe it's called Conspiracy with Mel Gibson, in the very beginning, they mentioned that, like, oh, the government puts fluoride in the water. It brings down the population. It makes them easier to be controlled. And then he says something else that is far-fetched. Another, you know, I forget what it was, but it's something that, you know, crazy people say. You know what I mean? Like the real people that run the country are dwarfs and da da da. Like whatever he says, it with what he's trying to do with the writer, you know what I mean, in this, and the executives and the producers and everything, right? If you bunch a bunch of conspiracy theories together and have some of them that are just so far out that make no sense, you know, like this notebook really runs the country, you know what I'm saying, or whatever, right? I'm just making that up, but you know, and you're like, man, that's crazy. So it means everything else grouped in is crazy, right? But apparently that wasn't too crazy, you know what I mean? Makes perfect sense, and it's nothing new, right? But now the truth is coming out because, of course, we're living in the last days. So let's expose it. Let's go to Judith chapter 7 and verse 11. All right. This is Judith chapter 7 in the Apocrypha, verse 11. Now, therefore, my Lord, fight not against them in battle array, right? Talking about the Israelites. Don't fight against them. And it's the heathens talking, okay? And there shall not so much as one man of thine people perish. Verse 12, remain in thy camp and keep all the men of thine army, and let thy servants get into their hands the fountain of water, which issueth forth of the foot of the mountain. Okay, so get at their water and we can get at them, right? So with that in mind, what did the United States get caught doing in front of the world? And keep in mind, if you live in an urban area, it's a chance right now that your tap water is fluoridated. You say, well, I don't drink tap water. Well, you shower in tap water. You know, if you clean off, you know, You drop something on the, apple on the ground, you want to clean it off on the water. That's tap water. Making spaghetti or noodles or something like that, unless you're using bottled water, that's tap water as well. All right. So keep in mind, we are all wet right now, depending on where you stay at, it might have well water or something like that, but we're subjected to this. So let's watch what America does to its population that they care so much about.
Well, a bombshell new report about the fluoride in our drinking water is out, and it confirms what we've been reporting here on this show for over a year, that fluoride is, of course, highly toxic. It's lowering the IQ of our children if they drink it or use it. Take a look. This is from the Associated Press. U.S. government report says fluoride at twice the recommended limit is linked to lower IQ in kids, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So independent journalist Derek Brose has been covering the massive problems with fluoride and this lawsuit between the EPA and the Fluoride Action Network in a California courtroom. And so he is well versed on the horrors of fluoride. And we wanted to welcome Derek back to comment on this latest report overnight. Derek, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me back on, Clayton. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. And, I think the first time you were on well over a year ago or so, it blew my mind. I mean, it blew my mind, it blew Natalie's mind, and I think our audience was shocked by what you were reporting as it relates to fluoride. And of course, you were covering this lawsuit at this time in the California courtroom. And now we have this new report. So first of all, just your response to this new report from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services that fluorinated drinking water led to a 2.2 to 5 point IQ drop in children. Does that comport with what you know about fluoride?
Oh, absolutely. And even the AP headline you read there, one of the points I want to make today is if you read that headline carefully, they couch it in these sort of caveated terms by saying twice the recommended limit. This is something that we've seen with this, not only with this lawsuit, with this the entire history of fluoride research, is that the U.S. government, particularly the EPA and then the CDC and then lobbying groups like the American Dental Association, refuse to accept that at the currently allowed limits, which is 0.7 milligrams per liter of fluoride in the water, there is harms to humans and especially to children and their developing brains. So you'll see in the headline, they say at twice the recommended limits. It's because they want to send the signal that, yes, we have to acknowledge there's harm from fluoride, but don't worry, it's not going to impact you because it's not at the current limits. But as I'll talk about today, that is completely incorrect. And this is just one more piece of evidence that we have, those of us who've been following this for years now, to show that fluoride is causing harm, and it's causing harm to the most vulnerable among us, that being children, young children, as well as pregnant mothers and their yet to be born babies.
How bad is fluoride, and what is fluoride?
So what we commonly call fluoride is actually a number of different substances, most commonly hydrofluorosilicic acid, which is a byproduct of phosphate mining. Now, there is a company that's in the United States, one of the most well-known companies. They're called Mosaic Company, Mosaic Co. They're based in Florida, and they do aluminum mining. And a byproduct of that aluminum mining is this substance, hydrofluorosilicic acid, which since the 1940s, we've been told is great for remineralizing our teeth and fighting cavities, all of which has been debunked since then. And they started adding this fluoride to the water all around the United States since that point, starting with Grand Rapids, Michigan, and now in the United States and parts of Western Europe and even Canada are now considering it. Nearly every major city in the so-called modern world is doing this. But as the data shows, and as I learned through going to the trial in San Francisco and interviewing the experts, we've known for almost 100 years now that the data has been out there showing the various harms associated with fluoride. This National Toxicology Program final report here is focused on IQ and neurological issues, but that is unfortunately not where the problems with fluoride end. We could talk about bone problems, we could talk about kidney issues, liver issues, and of course there's the calcification of the pineal gland. There's a number of different problems, but this particular report is focused on the damage to our brain, which is obviously something very important.
So the idea that 100 years ago, we knew that this was bad. It was this byproduct, an offshoot of the mining, of this aluminum mining. Was it used as a way to, instead of dumping it illegally, we're just going to use it in our drinking water and therefore it's safe for all of you? I mean, is that a way around?
Absolutely.
The pollution?
Absolutely. So in a typical circumstance, these aluminum companies like Mosaic and others, and some of the fluoride has come from China and mining over there, they would have to figure out a way to dispose of this in some sort of environmental safe way. But instead, since the fluoride program, which by the way, the CDC still claims is one of the top 10 public health achievements of the 20th century, they are able to instead profit from this waste. So instead of having to spend money to find a way to safely dispose of the fluoride, the hydrofluorosilicic acid, they get to go to major cities like where I'm originally from in Houston, where the city of Houston has had a contract with companies like that for years for $1 million a year, $1 million a year of taxpayer money going specifically to put this poison in the water. So the companies profit to the tune of hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, instead of having to spend their own money to properly dispose of it.
Wow. And then, of course, that's in the drinking water. And then how, when you look at this lawsuit that you've been dealing with and covering, what is the argument from the Fluoride Action Network against the EPA? What has been the crux of their argument in this lawsuit?
So they originally filed a petition under what's called the Toxic Substance Control Act, which was a sort of a new opportunity for US citizens to file petitions with the EPA if we believe that we have data and evidence that proves that a substance or a chemical is toxic. So the Fluoride Action Network, which has been a long time advocate for protecting people from fluoride, I think since 2004, they got to work, they filed a petition providing numerous data showing all the various harms associated with fluoride. And the EPA, of course, denied that petition. Then the Fluoride Action Network filed lawsuit against them. And so that has been dragging on now for we're looking at almost a decade now, 8 years going on. And their argument is essentially that the data is out there. There's plenty of evidence, as this new report is showing as well, to conclude that fluoride is indeed a toxin. It has numerous harms to human health, as we talked about, developing health and going into adulthood. And that's essentially what they're arguing and what they had to prove in court. And having attended both phases of the trial, first via Zoom during COVID lockdowns, and then again earlier this year in the San Francisco courtroom, they have gone above and beyond, proving that, I would say beyond a shadow of a doubt, it is now still in the hands of Judge Chen, the federal judge in San Francisco, and he heard from the EPA, heard from all their expert witnesses, and he heard from numerous expert witnesses from the Fluoride Action Network, including some of the leading experts on mercury poisoning, on lead poisoning, and is basically asking the US government and the EPA to apply the same standards that they applied to lead and to mercury, apply those same standards to fluoride. And so far they have refused to do so. And the EPA, although I will acknowledge that there was a historic moment at the trial where the EPA did acknowledge that yes, fluoride is a neurotoxin. The main crux of the debate or the disagreement is at what levels that harm actually begins.
We know it's a neurotoxin. Yes, we will admit it. Just depends on how much you get. I mean, what can families do about this? I mean, our family, we've got 3 kids, Natalie and I, and we make sure, so we got that like Hello toothpaste, it has no fluoride in it. This is not a sponsor of the show or anything like that. I know there's all sorts of brands out there now that have no fluoride in it. That's one thing I guess you could do. But as far as the drinking water, what are Americans supposed to do? Are they aware how much fluoride is in their water? Do they know? Are American families notified how much of this neurotoxin is in their drinking water?
I don't think the average American, to try to be kind to everybody, I don't think the average American's paying attention. I know people who still drink out of the tap, and I would say immediately that's one thing you should stop doing. Anybody who's listening to this, stop cooking your food with the tap water, stop drinking the tap water, stop making your coffee with the tap water. Because, for example, if you want to make some pasta and you put tap water in there that is fluoridated, because of the fluoride being a salt, it will actually increase. It doesn't evaporate as you boil the water away. It increases into your food, so you concentrate it in your food. So then you're going to be absorbing that. And this is another important point with the NTP report. Now, I mentioned earlier how the Associated Press and other corporate media, they're trying to, they're reporting on this, but they're adding the caveat, but they only looked at limits way beyond the currently allowable amounts in the United States. But that is actually inaccurate, because there's not just one single source of fluoride. Yes, you get it from the drinking water, but you can also, as you mentioned, get it from the toothpaste. The other thing is when you're showering, you're going to be absorbing that fluoride into your skin. And then if you are, eating processed food, canned goods, etc. Unless it specifically says it's reverse osmosis filtered water, more than likely those canned goods are using fluoridated water. All processed foods contain fluoridated water. So there are numerous sources that people are being exposed to this, not just children, not just pregnant mothers, but all people. So one of the best things you can do is to get a reverse osmosis filter. And I'm not talking about just the standard kind of pitcher filter you might buy from Walmart or something. Most of those really don't do anything. I mean, they'll remove some things, but they're not going to get fluoride out. Reverse osmosis is the only process that is strong enough to actually remove fluoride out of the water. And then, people do need to remineralize their water because it's so strong, it takes out maybe some of the good minerals you want as well. But you can do things like that. I mean, companies do sell shower filters. You can buy, if you can afford it, you can buy whole house systems where you can install it actually under the sink. And so the water that comes out is filtered. But I understand that's probably out of the range of many people. One of the things that I've seen in traveling all around the United States is that nearly every state and every city has these water filtration stations. You'll see them as you drive around. There's the Penguin, there's the Windmill, there's a few different brands of them. And those tend to do about 7 to 8 different types of filtration, including reverse osmosis. So like in our home, we go out and fill up 4 or 5-gallon jugs and bring them home. And then that's what we drink with. That's what we cook with. We have a shower filter here at our house as well. There are steps, thankfully, that we can take to protect ourselves. But of course, some of us would like to believe that the government is supposed to protect us. And, why are they not taking these steps? Hopefully that will change now that this final report from the National Toxicology Program is out. Hopefully we will be getting a ruling from Judge Chen. And if he does rule in favor of the Fluoride Action Network, although it will still take some more bureaucracy and a little bit of time to get it done, it would be the end of water fluoridation.
Wonderful. I think that's the solution, because these reverse osmosis systems are very expensive and Americans are really strapped right now. So you're going to ask them to put in, I'm saying the government needs to step in here, because you're going to ask every American to do a $2,000 to $3,000 reverse osmosis system in their house. And it's just not viable for so many Americans right now. We need the federal government to step in and remove this from our water. So, Derek, thank you for your amazing reporting on all of this. Where can people find you online and your reporting?
Absolutely. Clayton, I'd like to add one more brief point if I can, because I just want to hammer home how important this report is. I just want to mention that the NTP's report, this final report that we're finally seeing, this has been kept secret for the last 2 years at least. The only reason we ever even knew about this report is because of this lawsuit. And through the fluoride lawsuit, we were able to get emails which show that the current Assistant Secretary of Health, Rachel Levine or Richard Levine, depending on your preference, directly blocked the release of this report more than a year ago, more than 2 years ago. And because of the emails that have come out through this court case here, we actually were able to get some view into the background where we saw conversations between the peer reviewers and we saw conversations between the scientists. And I just want to make this point clear that the NTP scientists, well before this final report has come out, they have been fighting to get the truth out. They have been fighting to maintain their conclusions. Every time these anonymous peer reviewers from the government would try to come in and say, we think you need to change the language here, we need to do this thing, the scientists continuously come back and said that, we believe in our assessment. In fact, I'll just quote them. They said, quote, "It is true that our stated confidence assessment is based primarily on studies with total exposures higher than those generally associated with consumption of optimally fluoridated water in the United States. However, the confidence assessment also included findings from studies with fluoride exposures that are similar to or even lower than the optimally fluoridated water supplies in the United States." So I just want to make that clear that there are NTP scientists who are not famous or well known, but they have been fighting for the last few years to make sure that this report came out. And it's only because of Rachel Levine and other special interests, including the ADA, that it's taken this long for this to come out. So I want people to understand that there are some good scientists within there trying to keep the data alive, and they've been fighting to get their conclusions out.
And you can understand, we say Rachel Levine, Biden's pick, transformer, like looks like a straight man, but put on a wig or long hair or something like that. Obviously, doesn't mind with puberty blockers and all type of things to change a little boy into a girl, or try to change a little boy into a girl, or vice versa. No problems with that, but when it comes to the IQ of children being minimized, and not just children, adults as well, you know what I mean? Over the course of the year, fluoride it builds up in the body, you all types of health problems. No problems with that. So, all praise to the Most High for, the exposure of these people. It's the government, right? It's the Democrats, right? The Democrats care about people. It's those pesky Republicans that are the problem. Same wing, a different wing, same bird. Okay. So let's continue on with the news. So as the person was saying on there, do everything in your power to not be exposed with fluoride. You know what I mean? Instead of using tap water for your pasta or your spaghetti, you know what I mean? Whatever heating up. Um, you know, aim to use spring water. If you live in a location, I don't know of a location like that. I'm gonna have to look into it around here in Philadelphia, but that actually gives you water that's purified, filtered, and has reverse osmosis. So it's something I gotta look into. All right. So let's go to Isaiah 19 and verse 4, because apparently the government needs to be exposed because they're just going around doing whatever they want to do. But God always has the last word. All right. So Isaiah chapter 19, and we're going to start at verse 4. The Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord of hosts. And the waters shall fail from the sea, and the river shall be wasted and dried up. Okay. And who right now the Most High obviously is in control. Who did he put in the forefront of the United States? Jim Crow Joe Biden. He can't walk up a flight of steps. He can't walk down a flight of steps. He can't stand next to a bike. He can't walk across the stage without falling. You know what I'm saying? He can't complete a full sentence. He cannot be interviewed live because he'll have a brain fart. You know what I mean? You see him in the debate. He's gone. You know, he's a huge hypocrite, right? His son was banging 7-gram rocks while he was putting Jake in jail for selling crack. Okay, and like when I put him in jail, I mean like prison, like life. If you know about the crime bill, he coined it before he ran for president. Um, the Joe Biden bill, Joe Biden crime bill, because he said I authorized it, or I authored it. So, the Most High has put him in position. As you can see, with that position, he's taking full advantage of destroying people. Okay, like I said, we all know the Most High rules everything, right? But we're gonna talk about who he put in in office to pretty much wipe people out. Like we're saying, the water shall fail from the sea, and the rivers shall be wasted and dried up. Let's go to Revelation 17, verse 15. All right, Revelation 17 And verse 15. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. All right, so these people are drying up. And we're going to see why, you know, through the censorship. If you talked about this, you can't even say it now, even though it comes out, you know, that this is what they did. You still say it now, they'll drop you down from the algorithms, or they'll put a medical misinformation post on your, on your video. So if we could just play along and, y'all know what I'm talking about with, happened in 2019, 2020, when everybody went to get the jab. So if you said anything negative about it, you got censored. We're going to watch that right now. Okay. I brought up before, there was a video with a nurse that took it because they had to get it early, to make sure that they were immune, right? So it was the Operation Warp Speed that happened, and boom, we got it. Now everybody can take it, right? So she took it, and you see her with these sunglasses on. Then she took her sunglasses off. You can see the whole side of her face was like paralyzed. So it was Bell palsy she had, and she was saying, I was fine before, I took this, and now look at my face. So I put that up on Facebook, and I mean, it's Slacky on YouTube, and immediately, it went, to the roof. A lot of people were looking at it, commenting and everything. And then within a few days, they were like, nope, they took it off, said it's medical misinformation. You can hurt people by putting out the testimony of a nurse that what happened. So they we're all complicit on this. So it's not just Facebook, it's the YouTube, Instagram, wherever, social media. Your freedom, your free speech is severely limited. Okay. So that's not free. It's not free at all. Now let's also go to Proverbs 21. See who's doing this, who's ultimately behind this. You know what I mean? Proverbs 21, verse 1, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, as the rivers of water. He turneth it whithersoever he will. So part of this process of destroying the heathens, the 2/3, this is the way the Most High wants it to be. All right. But nevertheless, the devil is still the devil, and they are very slimy in what they're doing. But the Most High got them wrapped around his finger. But let's watch the video.
Mark Zuckerberg admitting Facebook was pushed by the Biden-Harris administration to censor Americans' content. In a letter sent to the House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, the Meta CEO explained, quote, in 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. Enes Kanter Freedom is a human rights activist, former NBA player, and he joined.
There you have it, you guys. Breaking news coming out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, as we are seeing trending right now all over the social media platforms is Mark Zuckerberg, as he has come out and confessed that there was censorship on Meta, and there was major pressure that came out from the Biden administration. Now, take a look at this. Mark Zuckerberg says that Meta was pressured by the Biden administration to censor COVID-related content in 2021. And this coming out today, and this is all over the news media headlines, you guys. Let me know your thoughts. An attack on freedom of speech from the Biden administration. What should be the repercussions of this? Let me know your thoughts. Now, I'm going to be sharing with you some more video footage, not just from Fox, but from CNN, on what is coming out. This is coming out today. If you guys appreciate the breaking news live updates, do me a quick favor here before we dive in. Don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe to stay up to date. I'll keep you up to speed on everything. But let's go ahead and take a look at what is going on right now with all of this. Let's take a look at this video footage.
Well, the CEO of the social media giant Meta revealing that his company censored some of its content around the COVID-19 pandemic. Mark Zuckerberg says his teams didn't want to, but they were under serious pressure from the Biden administration. And he is telling members of Congress that this will not happen again. While Salman Safati is following this from Washington, this is fascinating. This revelation came in a letter from Mark Zuckerberg, as I understand it, the House Judiciary Committee. What more do we know about what is in that letter?
Yeah, Becky, it's a very strongly worded letter sent from Mark Zuckerberg to the House Judiciary Committee, who has been pushing for more information about the spread of potential disinformation, the spread of information, and potential censorship, they say, on the part of the White House. And Zuckerberg in this letter is very clear. He uses the words pressure. He said he felt pressure from the Biden White House to censor some of the information about the COVID-19 pandemic. And he says, he expresses regret. He says he should have been more outspoken at the time. He now believes it is wrong, knowing what he now knows. And in this letter, he says, quote, in 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. That was him in this letter to the House Judiciary. House Republicans, Becky, they're already, highlighting this information, celebrating this admission on the part of Zuckerberg. The White House defending their position, a statement to CNN today saying that during that time, they believed the administration, they said, encouraged responsible actions to protect public health safety. And notably, Zuckerberg says that he will be ready to push back more forcefully if this ever happens again in the future. Becky?
And so he also, in this letter, suggested that the FBI warned about potential Russian disinformation around Hunter Biden and the Ukrainian firm Burisma affecting the 2020 election. And that information was suppressed in some way as well. Is that what we are to understand from this?
That's absolutely right, Becky. And again, this is something that House Republicans have been pushing to learn more about. He says in this letter that in the fall of 2020, his team temporarily demoted a story that was put out by the New York Post that alleged Biden family corruption. They demoted that, he says, so that it could be cleared through their own fact checkers as they were reviewing the story. And Zuckerberg in this letter says that since then, it's been made clear to him that the reporting was not Russian disinformation. And he says in retrospect that they should not have demoted the story. So that's an important clarification. And he says that Meta has changed some policies to make sure that this doesn't happen again. But again, this just giving a lot of fuel to the fire of House Republicans pushing for more information, especially with the Biden family and the information that's spread over social media.
Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook's parent company, now says he regrets agreeing to requests from the Biden administration to censor content related to COVID-19. In a letter to the House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, Zuckerberg wrote this, quote, in 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our team for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. Zuckerberg went on to say Facebook should not have temporarily demoted an article from the New York Post reporting on allegations of corruption in the Biden family in the lead up to the 2020 election. The panel's back. We're also joined by CNN media analyst Sarah Fisher. Sarah, good morning. Wonderful to have you. Thanks for jumping in on this story. I think what Zuckerberg has done here is fascinating. It's not something we've heard from him in this kind of direct way before. What is going on here, and what does it
what does it mean for future elections or issues like this?
This is a huge deal. You'll recall Republicans from 2 states sued. They went all through a huge court battle, basically alleging that the government overreached. They lost that court case, but we never heard from Facebook. We never heard from Meta. So we didn't know how they felt about the issue. This is the first time now. And them coming out and saying, look, this was a big deal. We don't agree with these policies. It sets a precedent moving forward that if any government official, if the White House were to pressure them again, we now know where they stand, and hopefully they now feel empowered to push back.
What are the politics behind this? I mean, clearly Zuckerberg is being influenced by a wide variety of factors. Sending this letter to Jim Jordan, did he feel like he had to do it? Why now?
Because ahead of the election, they're going to face a lot of content moderation issues. Even though they don't want to be involved in politics and news anymore, inevitably they are. And so if there is going to be an 11th hour issue like the New York Post story and Facebook were to make the wrong call, they want everyone in Congress, particularly Republicans, to know that their intent here is not to be picking one side, that they're doing what they think is best for the health of the platform. But if he didn't speak up about the White House pressure now, no one would have believed them then.
Mark Preston, what do you see here? If you have a question for Sarah too, I'd be interested in kind of like how you spend a lot of your time thinking about how we as a news organization here at CNN are going to cover these elections, cover politics. It can be really, really tricky. And Facebook, now Meta, was at the center of this.
God, I hate walking the center line again, but I agree with Mark Zuckerberg. No, I agree. I mean, the idea that we have to protect free speech is critical to our democracy. No question about that. We still haven't been able to handle how do we slow the disinformation so as people don't get wrong information. The government clearly didn't do it the right way, but there needs to be a way. It's just we haven't figured it out yet.
The way, by the way, is transparency. And that's what I think a lot of government officials are starting to lean into. Facebook can make all the content moderation decisions in the world. We want to know how their algorithms work and why they're making them, and then we can hold them accountable to the decision whether it's right or wrong. We didn't have a lot of those transparency measures in place. It was the 2020 election, and quite frankly, the New York Post story that has now forced a lot of tech companies to be more forthcoming around how they make these decisions.
Well, are they telling us more about their algorithm?
They are. I mean, now this algorithm is much more like TikTok. It elevates what is going viral as opposed to what your close friends and family think. And that matters, Casey, because a lot of the political content being shared on Facebook, it came from your close friends and family. So we know that there's a reduction in political content. We know that there's a reduction in news content. And we know that it's easier for a random person to go viral very quickly. Now, that's a disinformation problem within itself. But a lot of that disinformation right now, it actually isn't mostly politics. It's a lot of disinformation around consumer harms, things like, someone hawking a bad drug product that's not good for weight loss, but they claim that it is.
Yeah.
So there you have it, you guys. Man, let me know your thoughts. Now, here is a headline that's coming out right now that says, Mark Zuckerberg says that Meta was pressured by the Biden administration to censor COVID-related content in 2021. Now, this article says that Mark Zuckerberg, chairman and CEO of social media company Meta, said in a letter to the House Judiciary Committee on Monday that his teams were pressured by the Biden White House to censor some content around the COVID-19 pandemic. So if you felt there was information being censored, you were 100% correct. They're saying the Biden administration was doing this, trying to suppress what was going out on social media platforms. Now, in 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree, Zuckerberg said. In his letter to the Judiciary Committee, Zuckerberg said that the pressure that he felt in 2021 was wrong, and he came to regret that his company, the parent of Facebook and Instagram, was not more outspoken. Zuckerberg added that with the benefit of hindsight and new information, there were decisions made in 2021 that wouldn't be made today. Now, it says, like I said to our teams at the time, I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standards due to pressure from any administration in either direction, and we're ready to push back if something like this were to happen again, Zuckerberg wrote. President Biden said in July of 2021 that social media platforms are ending the lives of people with misinformation surrounding the pandemic. Though Biden later walked back these statements, U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy said at the time that misinformation posted on social media was a serious threat to public health. A White House spokesperson responded to Zuckerberg's letter, saying the administration at the time was encouraging responsible actions to protect public health and safety. Our position has been clear and consistent. We believe tech companies and other private actors should take into account the effects their actions have on the American people while making independent choices about the information they present, according to the spokesperson. Zuckerberg in a letter also said that the FBI warned his company about potential Russian disinformation about the Hunter Biden and the Ukrainian firm Burisma affecting the 2020 elections. So yeah, a lot of stuff starting to come out, you guys. Now, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think we're hearing a lot of people saying they're praising Zuckerberg for coming out on this? But also, should he be held accountable? I've seen a lot of people saying that this is a crime. Actually, in the video that I saw that I shared with you before from Fox News, I cut it off where that interview was about to take place with that basketball player. But he said that this was suppression of freedom of speech, and that Meta played a role in it. The Biden administration was doing that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think that there should be repercussions that should unfold as a result of this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, these people are disgusting, you know, and I was saying before press play on the video that the Most High is doing these things. You know what I'm saying? That took a lot of people out. You know, people like, oh, I need to get it. You know, because there was a lot of pressure. If you remember, there was a lot of pressure. And they're saying, if you love your parents, you need to get it. If you love your grandparents, you definitely need to get it because they're susceptible to getting it. And, you know, it'll stop with you. The transmission will stop with you and you can't spread it to anybody. And those are all lies. You know, the drug companies made a whole bunch of money and people have been having problems with their ticker, you know what I mean, since then. And, you know, a lot of people have been taken off this planet due to that. Allegedly, I have to do that, right? Allegedly, right? But we already know what it is. I'm saying the Most High does everything, okay? And the Most High puts Mark Zuckerberg in front of the world and says, yeah, he did it. They're the ones that did it. That's huge. You know, the story's still being suppressed because, you know, the Democrats pretty much are in line with CNN, MSNBC, Fox DC on there. Fox News was talking about it, but it's not being talked about enough because this was a big deal. You know what I mean? But now the Most High put the spirit on Mark Zuckerberg to spill the bean. Slakia, to spill the beans, okay? And all praise to the Most High. Let them fight against each other. All right. Let's continue on. Let's see what's more things that's happening. Actually on Facebook, there's a brother that's, you know, they always have an issue with the Hispanics and Native Americans. They always say Negro only. The Hispanics and Native Americans aren't part of the 12 tribes of Israel. Like they don't endure these curses. Well, the next story, you know, will pretty much put that idea to bed. All right, let's go to Deuteronomy 28 and verse 32. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thy hand. This is actively happening to the Hispanics, so-called Hispanics, that are coming to seek asylum in the United States. So no need to look any further. This is a curse. Let's bring it out.
A new Department of Homeland Security report suggests the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, ICE, cannot account for tens of thousands of unaccompanied minors. The report from the DHS Inspector General notes a number of issues, effectively blaming ICE for losing track of children who arrive alone at the border. Let's bring in border correspondent Ali Bradley, who is live for us in Del Rio, Texas. Ali, break down more of this report for us.
Yeah, hey, Nicole, it's a pretty alarming report that found that at least 32,000 unaccompanied children never showed up for their court dates between 2019 and 2023. And nearly 300,000 of these kids that came across the southern border alone never even got a court date whatsoever. So ICE did respond to this Office of Inspector General report here that was just released, saying that the notices were not given out to children until they were placed with sponsors. And at that point, they were in the custody of the Office of Refugee Resettlement. An immigration attorney that we spoke with says the fact that there are too many agencies involved is causing part of this issue here. Take a listen.
If ICE wants to find where these kids are, if ICE had the capability and the funding to do so, it would be able to do so. The real issue is the left hand wants for these kids to file for asylum with USCIS, which is one agency. Meanwhile, everyone is expecting for these kids to also get a notice to appear, which would put them into immigration court, which is a different agency. And so each agency is essentially standing with its hands in its pockets, waiting for the other agency to take jurisdiction over these kids' cases. So it's not necessarily a matter of tracking that's an issue. It's a matter of there's no uniform system or process for what needs to happen next.
Yeah, Nicole, once these children come across the southern border, basically they're encountered by a Border Patrol agent, but HHS, Health and Human Services, and the Office of Refugee Resettlement get involved immediately. So Border Patrol doesn't have anything to do with these young children. ICE does retain the responsibility to walk through this immigration process with these children. So I have reached out to ICE, Nicole. I have not yet heard back from the agency.
All right, so Allie, I think big question here, what is being done to make sure that these unaccompanied minors are in the right hands?
Yeah, you heard that immigration attorney there talk about it's not necessarily an issue of tracking, but it is going to be hard to find these nearly 320,000 children. So right now, we just confirmed here at News Nation that the Homeland Security Committee for the GOP House Republicans is actually planning a hearing following this report that is new here to News Nation. But we can also confirm that a top Senate Republican is also calling for some kind of movement, some kind of hearing to happen because of this report and surrounding these unaccompanied children. So Senator Bill Cassidy, he's the ranking member on the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. He sent a letter to Chairman Senator Bernie Sanders requesting that a committee hold a hearing. So Cassidy is citing the DOJ lawsuit filed against the primary contractor who houses unaccompanied children in its shelters. Southwest Key Programs currently under fire, alleging some of its employees have engaged in improper or practicing sexual abuse and harassment of these unaccompanied children. So the lawmaker is saying that it is an issue that is, quote, ripe for oversight. Now, according to HHS data, the Biden administration has actually released more children into the United States, more unaccompanied children who have crossed the southern border into the U.S. when we compare that to the last two previous administrations, Nicole. So definitely some higher numbers right now. We know the Biden administration has not wanted to remove children, that has been something that they have been adamant on, that unaccompanied children can stay in the United States. But again, finding out where they go and keeping track of them has proven to be a problem under this administration, according to people on the ground, Nicole.
Yeah, some really disturbing data in that report. All right, Allie, thank you.
So of course we understand that Esau is a pervert, right? There's no person on earth worse than him. Border wickedness. So you look at when there was the earthquake in Haiti, Edomites were caught trying to steal their children and bring them back to the United States. Now they don't have to go to zones, war zones, or emergency place where they need emergency help and steal their children. The children coming up from the border, they're just taking them. So she said 320,000 children. So when you ask Esau, how many people do you have chained down in your basement? And they start laughing. I'll ask them that at camp. They start laughing like, ha, no. How do you know? You know what I mean? Because that's how they get down. The government runs the dark web. You know what I mean? The dark web was started by government software. So it's not unheard of for them to know who are the most vile perverts and the most, you know, diabolical Edomites, and to put them on their team. You know what I'm saying? That's not going against the American way. That's how they get down. So 320,000 children is a lot. And it's under the Biden administration. Kamala Harris is supposed to be like the border czar. And, you know, now Jake and, you know, a bunch of other people are just, you know, up in arms about how awesome she is and how great of a job she's doing. She's doing a terrible job. 300,000 children just walking around the United States, no parents, no guidance, no nothing. And they tell them, okay, we'll send you a letter so you can show up to court. They're like, I'm 3 years old, I can't read. What are you talking about? Where are you going to send a letter to? I'm living on the streets, you know? But if you don't see a bunch of migrant children, 10 tribes children living on the streets, because they're probably living in Edomites' houses right now. You know what I mean? And like they were saying, the type of sexual abuse and pictures, nude pictures and all other stuff, it said it's ripe, you know, with needing oversight. You think? But what are they going to do? What are they going to do? And when are they going to do it? You know what I mean? Let's get verse 41. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 41. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. And one thing that Esau does, and you know, it's legal slavery. Oh, I'll adopt this child, and this child now is a slave. Turn him, if it's a boy, he'll turn into a girl, turn into a boy, just to keep him confused, keep him down, not be able to prosper and do the things that the Most High requires of them, keep them in sin. Okay, and they always got somebody to vacuum their floor, always got somebody to clean up, you know, to mow their lawn, always got somebody to do the chores or housework, and you know, give them some food, give them some clothes, you know, and you got yourself a slave. Okay, so modern day slavery happening in America today. All right, now let's go to the next on the agenda. What's going on? The Most High is taking these people out of here. Let's get Psalm chapter 34 and 21. You know, I believe they talk about this man worked at he's a mechanic at Genesis, you know. So let's bring that, let's bring that out. This is the Long Island guy, just offed his entire family. Okay. And it's Esau. This is the Edomite thing. They're good at that. All right. So we get Psalm chapter 34 and 21. Evil shall slay the wicked, and they that hate righteous shall be desolate. So they're killing each other. Evil is slaying the wicked. So here's this video, just came out not too long ago, about what happened in a day in New York, Long Island section. Let's begin.
An entire neighborhood left grieving and in shock after police say a man killed 4 family members before turning the gun on himself.
All right, so top story tonight at 5, and Fox 5's Jody Goldberg is live from Syosset. And Jody, what are you learning from police tonight?
Stephen, Natasha, authorities say this is one of the worst crime scenes they've ever seen. Absolutely horrific. And neighbors and loved ones, they were already mourning the loss of a loved one, of their mom who died. And now they're grieving an entire family.
God protected me because, you know, I was supposed to be in there with them. But instead, Randy walked outside to this, a crime scene in what's normally a quiet cul-de-sac. The neighbor says she was going to be setting up food inside the DeLucia's home Sunday morning. Their 4 siblings were set to meet with a realtor to discuss selling their childhood home. Their mom died last week. She was 95 years old. I say in memory of Terry, I'm going to bring some food over. You know, at the same time, it's for you, Tina, you know, to celebrate your birthday. There was no celebration. Police say the youngest sibling, 59-year-old Joseph DeLucia Jr., shot and killed his two sisters, his brother, and his niece.
He decided that day to get a loaded Mossberg shotgun, 12 gauge, approached them in the rear area of the house, and from the kitchen fired 12 shots, striking all 4 of them multiple times. He then took the weapon, went out onto the front lawn, was shouting indiscriminately about what had happened. He then self-inflicted shot to the chest and killed himself.
Investigators say DeLucia was upset over potentially needing to leave the home he was still living in with his mom. Randy remembers one of the last conversations they had.
I told my neighbor and I at the same time that, it's not worth living anymore. I told him it's not right. Don't say that.
Police say they were called to the house 2 years ago for DeLucia, but he wasn't determined to be a threat to himself or others. DeLucia worked as a mechanic at Genesis of the North Shore. Neighbors who knew he struggled with mental illness feared the worst after hearing screams coming from the home.
I didn't think it was that he would take his whole family, his siblings.
Red flag laws allow police to take away weapons if someone is determined to be a threat to themselves or others.
If we don't say something, sometimes the outcomes are like we get yesterday.
And Nassau Police tells us the gun was illegally possessed. They're still working on where and when it was purchased. And neighbors tell us the cars of those victims are still parked outside tonight. That's the latest here in Syosset, Long Island. Jody Goldberg, let's send it back to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. It's Genesis of the North Shore. Spiritual is that. But Genesis 25:25, that red monster done killed everybody. You know what I mean? And that's something that we have been seeing here on the Wednesday wake-up call. Massive amount of people taking out their entire family. And more often than not, it's the Edomites doing this. So the Most High is putting the spirit on these Edomites to take out more Edomites, and we'll just sit here and report on it. And ask the Most High to keep it going. You know what I'm saying? If it be his will, right? So now, and we see, why would he say something like that? That's so mean. Let's watch this next video. Okay? Let's start with Sirach. That is so mean. Oh my gosh. You know what I mean? Let's watch this next video. Let's see what's been going on in the world. Because it all sounds good. All come together. Love is love. Let's equality, join in hand. You know what I mean? Let's do hands across America. You know what I'm saying? All that sounds good. But when you look at the reality on the ground, there's some people that are getting destroyed and some people that are doing the destroying. So when the Most High starts doing the destroying to the people that were originally, that were, on the ground doing the destroying, now it's a tragedy, right? No. It's God doing what he does. He's judging the situation. All right, so we're going to get Sirach chapter 12 and verse 10. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. And who's the enemy of the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American? Black people who were brought over, so-called Black people brought over here, cargo slave ships, right? Blood, pus, every thing that comes out of a person's body swishing at the bottom of the slave ships just to get off and get sold and to work from sun up to sundown, right? And when I say sundown, if there's a full moon, you're working throughout the night. Okay? Killed, lynched, mass incarcerated, oppressed, forevermore to this day. We just looked at what happened with what's going on with the Hispanics. The so-called white man destroys their economic foundation. You read a book called The Economic Hitman. Go in there, take over the important infrastructure, their water systems. You know what I mean? Filtration systems. The energy sectors, whatever, right? And then and then begin to take over the country. You know, if they don't go for that, they assassinate the leader, and then they put their puppet government in, and then the country starts to fall down. It's sinking, right? So now the people are like, man, I gotta get out of here. I'm gonna go to the United States. I heard they have the land. That's the land of milk and honey. They think, right? The streets are paved with gold over there in America. Then they get here and then they snatch their children away from them, molest the children, right? And then you know, who knows what happens to the children? They buried somewhere in somebody's basement, right? So-called Native Americans, originally their land, where are they at? On reservations and put there, you know, had to walk the Trail of Tears. So the things that these Edomites have done, they're getting paid back for. But it's not the past. They continue to do this. No, this is not new. This is a continuation. There's not a time, a date you can say, well, I'm glad they stopped on that date. Hasn't happened yet. And I tell you like this, it's not going to happen. All right, so this next video, what happened when you trust your enemy?
Absolutely horrifying. All right, Jody, thank you.
What's the word with everybody, man? It's Unc, and we back with another video. Make sure y'all subscribe, hit that like button, turn on notifications so y'all can be notified when I drop. And also, please, man, if you guys would love to, donate to help the channel keep growing. Now, let's get into it. 19-year-old Indiana man found guilty after luring 3 men in grassy field to show them how a Glock switch work. All right? 16-year-old Caden Smith, a jury in Indiana, convicted a man who was 16. He murdered 3 people and was showing them how a machine gun worked. Caden Smith is now 19, was found guilty Friday of 3 counts of murder, robbery, dangerous possession of a machine gun, possessing of methamphetamine, and a lot of other straight bullshit. Okay? Now look, the Metro Police Departments, man, they found 3 men suffering from gunshot wounds filled on plastic grass near 4400 block of the South Madarian Street. Investigators recovered shell casings from that when it was shooting. Cops later learned to be the text message that the little dude, the little crazy boy, he lured him. Now I'm scrolling too fast, but he lured him. All right? Joseph, Michael's families will never in their life be able to see them. Okay? The prosecutor said, verdict, man, we locking him up. We're going to give him life in prison. And it is what it is. Because of the killers occurred 2 days apart, rumors speculated that he's a possible serial killer with the extra milk. A guilty verdict is not always a certain 2022. Judge threw out key evidence because they violated and they messed up the code. But then they let him out on ankle. So what did he do? They found the footages on Snapchat. Now, we're not talking about the switch that goes on and off. We're talking about the actual switch that shoots faster than the jackrabbit busting the nut. Okay? How are they getting these switches? They're being 3D printed. These switches are so dang fast, man. I'm telling you, bro, they shoot faster than a freaking automatic gun, bro. An actual AK. We gotta watch who we become friends with. Parents, Snapchat, you need to get rid of Snapchat out of your phone. Don't even let your kids hang out with weirdo kids like this. You need to always be reading and watching your kids at all times, because at any time they can be on and off. Okay? They can be gone, wiped, poof. What I'm here to tell you guys today is you guys need to be aware, very aware of who you have around you. Because these switches are worse than any other drug in the world. And this kid would never see the light of day. He will be washed up and gone so deep down in the prison system. Trust me, the Brotherhood is going to have to pick him up, because ain't nobody going to have no money to give to him. Okay? Ain't nobody going to have no commissary for that boy. That boy took 3 lives because he wanted to rob him.
All right, that's enough. Jackrabbit. Anyway, that's Jake. He has this, way of words, right? Okay, Sirach chapter 12, verse 11. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. Okay, verse 12. set him not by thee. Don't be around these people, man. You say, hey, you want to see a dead body? You know what I'm saying? You was the dead body. You walking with your enemy. He got a gun. You ain't got nothing. What do you think was going to happen? Salakia, let me go finish going. Set him not by thee, least when he have overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, least he seek to take thy seat. And now at the last, remember my words and be pricked therewith. Verse 13. Who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or any such as come nigh wild beast? So one that goeth, verse 14, so one that goeth to a sinner and is defiled with him in his sins, who will pity? That's why one thing this I heard this story, but it didn't blow up like that. Shout out to HOI News correspondent Yash that sent this. You know what I'm saying? I remember hearing about him, like, that just sounds weird. Why are you hanging around this dude? How was he able to kill these many people? You know what I'm saying? Because they trusted him. He said, oh man, Esau, even though he's high off meth, he's cool. He's all right. You know what I'm saying? No, he's not all right. And those three brothers lost their life as a result. They let this guy out on like ankle monitor. They're like, hey, he's not a threat. He just killed three people. So this is where we're at. You know what I mean? We got to be smarter, and follow these laws, statutes, commandments. Take heed of your friends. Stay away from your enemies. All right, because these are the last days. And as far as the cop that shot the sister Sandra Massey in her house, he had some type of cancer. He had cancer. That's why they let him. They're like, oh, he's not a threat. I think they kept him in jail, but his lawyer was arguing he's not a threat to run because he has some type of cancer. So the thing is, they know they're dying. They're like, shoot, I'm dying. I might as well just take somebody out with me. Take not somebody, but take some Israelites out with me. All right. So they're desperate. You know what I mean? Revelation 12:12, they know their time is short. Okay. So endure, Israel. All right. Follow these laws, statutes, commandments, stay in this word. All right. And every day that passes, we're getting closer and closer to the end of this thing. All right. So that is the class. Hopefully it was edifying. We learned some things. Learned one thing, done my job. All right. So we're going to close out in prayer. So if you want to stand or prostrate and face the east, we're going to say the Lord's Prayer in Paleo Hebrew. All right, this is the Lord's Prayer in ancient Paleo Hebrew, Abanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Quadash, Haya, Shemka, Yahweh, Malapaka, Thaba'ah, Ratazayaka, Haya, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Kawa, Haya, Bashamayim, Natananawa, Vakam, Kau, Yawam, Wasalaf Nawa, Kabawaf Nawa, Kasalaf Nawa, Kabawafi Nawa, Wala'a, Dabe Nawa, Banasai 1, Abo, Hawashai Nawa, Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Leka, Hamalakwaf, Wa'ala, Watapala Live with Dum Amen. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 6 and verse 9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. All right, Israel, keep going, stay focused. We are in the last days. May the Most High continue to protect you, continue to keep these law, statutes, commandments, and you know, I see some amazing things happen. Okay, be ready, be prepared. All right, Hom Yashala, Shalom.